Hi, everyone. Welcome to Big Ideas Podcast, the podcast where three co hosts rotate roles to explore real conversations, meaningful ideas, and decisions that shape our lives. I'm Mark Steiner. I'm a father, I'm a partner and mate, I'm a creative, I'm the founder and CEO of Gig Salad, and I'm one of the three co hosts on Big Ideas Podcast. Who else we got
What's
here?
what's up, brother? Justin Gabassi here, human optimization coach, touring musician, drummer, and currently world traveler, studying cultures around the globe to specifically study connection, human connection through art, cuisine, music, culture, language, all kinds of cool stuff. And also, luckily, a host here on Big Ideas Podcast with you two, which brings us to, I said two, so there must be a third.
There is indeed.
I'm Jessica Broadway, coach, author, speaker, mother, expert volunteer. I say that because I've definitely clocked my hours over the last decade. And podcaster. That is a new title for me to add to the list. And I'm excited to be here with you guys today.
That's great. Well, my POV, which we like to do, is I am in Hotlanta. Woohoo! I drove 10 hours yesterday. I left after Mother's Day brunch at Mother's folks' house, and I drove straight through to Atlanta. I rolled in at midnight Eastern Standard Time. I'll be here for a week for a conference, Music Biz Conference. But the work goes on. We still have to record, right? And here we are.
Yeah, man.
I'll speak to that here in a second, how it relates to this episode.
What's your POV? Is it hot in Atlanta? Is that why you said Hotlanta?
That's kind of that's one of their sort of, I don't know if it's a slogan or their nicknames, but it gets hot in Atlanta. They're
like
southern.
What the cool kids say.
I said it.
That makes it what the cool kids say then.
Right?
Yeah. Thank you, man. I feel like I'm going to be like, when I go to Atlanta, I'll like be a little more, I'll fit in a little more
cultured.
I suggest you do that. You just walk around, introduce yourself. Hi, I'm Justin. And I'm glad to be in Hotlanta. Just keep doing that. People will love you. They'll do it.
Oh, jeez.
Thank you, sir. Man, I'm here in Thailand. I'm on Koh Phangan Island, and it's here in the Gulf of Thailand, and it's a really, really beautiful place, man. I feel very blessed to be here.
Yeah, it's awesome, Justin. Well,
and you said it's rainy season there right now, right?
It's not supposed to be. It's May 11 today, as of episode 25 here, and it's been pretty hot and dry. It's been great, but it's also the last week or so has been raining pretty hardcore. And it's it's jungle here, so it's it gets with it when it rains. It's like, yeah, yep. So you gotta be careful. Like coconuts fall from the trees, and you don't want to be standing under one of those and get knocked. I mean, yeah.
Holy.
Okay.
Well, I am here in Nixa, Missouri, and my little home studio. I just got done attending the volunteer appreciation breakfast, so got my volunteer shirt on, and
look at you,
wrapping up
nice green shirt.
Yes, we call in the mom space, school space, we call May. It's actually called Maycember because it is absolutely just as busy as December, but it's in May. We have all the awards banquets, all the appreciation, the graduations, the volunteer breakfasts, the all the testing, all the teacher appreciation is also in May. And so it's a very, very, very compact month to get everything done. And it's basically short because kids get out on the 22nd. So it's very, very, it's Maycember here.
Okay. I guess it's Maycember here too.
Yep. So if anyone ever says to you Maycember, they probably have kids in school because that's a very unique phrase to the school volunteer world.
Okay. Well, I'm an empty nester, so I'm not experiencing that anymore. But
Lucky you.
Um, Listen, today is episode 25, and we are doing this on entrepreneurialism. To be an entrepreneur, we three are entrepreneurs. But what does that mean? And I'd like to read a definition and then dive into some of our stories. An entrepreneur is an individual who initiates, organizes, and manages a new business venture, assuming significant financial risks in pursuit of innovation, profit, and growth. They identify market needs to create original products/services, acting as agents of change by transforming ideas into actionable business realities. So there's a risk assumption associated with being an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs take on the majority of financial and personal risk associated with starting a business. Innovation, they often introduce new goods, services, or methods of production to the market. Management, they organize resources and manage operations to achieve their goals. And key traits, successful entrepreneurs are often possess resilience, versatility, strong communication skills, and business acumen. So there is there's a distinction here that should be an entrepreneur versus a business owner. While often used interchangeably, an entrepreneur typically focuses on rapid growth and high-level innovation, whereas a traditional business owner may focus on steady, established operations. So um, I've been an entrepreneur all of my life. I started as a young lad in the Northeast, shoveling snows, raking leaves, mowing lawns, earning my not just being handed allowances, but earning allowance. So taking on jobs around the house. These are all were sort of my beginning thoughts about I'm a businessman. I'm doing stuff. How about you, Justin? I know you're an entrepreneur now. Have you been an entrepreneur your whole life?
I think so, man. I mean, I started my first entrepreneurial endeavor was strapping on my backpack full of candy bars and going around to the neighbors to sell candy bars for my soccer team when I think I was 6, 7, something like that.
Ooh.
And you have like competitions, so the more you sell, you can get like bonuses. So the candy bar money goes toward the pool, right? And at this point, we're trying to get new uniforms and stuff like that. But then, if you like outsell your buddies, you get like cash prizes and stuff like that. So, and we lived in the country, so man, I was riding up and down hills on 2-lane highway. My parents were pretty cool to let me do it, and of course, running from dogs. But it's kind of started there, man. And then similar to you, like mowing and all kinds of stuff, bucking hay. I don't know if anybody out there has ever done that, but that's pretty tough. I was 10 cents a bale at that point. So, anyway, but I loved it, man. You go and work like a weekend and make a few bucks. And I like the freedom of it. So it's been pretty much a mainstay theme throughout my life.
Got it. Jessica.
Yeah, I'm so glad you made that distinction between like a business owner versus the entrepreneur and the difference between those. I didn't always know I was an entrepreneur until like much later. But my very first entrepreneurial gig was washing cars. So I was maybe 10, probably 11. And the neighbor kid and I hatched a plan to make some money, and we were going to go around the neighborhood and wash cars. And I didn't know this then, of course, but I did know that you needed a strong, compelling why. Like you needed a reason for people, to pay you money. And so we hatched this plan that we were going to donate some of the money to save exotic fish. Remember, I lived in Scotland, so like there were no exotic fish around there. So I'm not really sure why the idea came up or what we thought. I do not remember the correlation of that, but I very, very vividly remember us needing to hatch a plan, in a storyline and present our pitch to the neighbors. And we had a good little gig going for a while. And, a trait and characteristics that is common for entrepreneurs is start strong and run out of steam. So we definitely decided we were done with that one and moved on. But yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out. I've seen, as I've grown over the years, I've seen there's this stark difference in knowing whether or not you want a business or you want to be an entrepreneur. Those are different, I think, mindsets. And I don't think always being an entrepreneur is always attached to making money. I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs that start nonprofits, or they start missions or visions. A lot of people in the ministry field are very entrepreneurial, creative, innovative, looking for taking huge risks for a great cause. So that's a different side I've always seen of entrepreneurialism is the difference.
That's a great
It's in,
point. I'm glad you pointed
yeah,
that out. I
yeah. I
was thinking
hadn't.
about it. I don't know, but sorry, Mark. I
No,
was
go.
thinking about it like kind of that one stream of thought of like it always equals money, but that's a great point, Jessica. Like there's tons of entrepreneurs that it's not just all about the Benjamins.
Yeah.
No, I hadn't thought about ministry or going into a faith-based career, being but that's definitely, there's some entrepreneurialism there, but it's also like the distinction, I wonder, is that also sort of being a business owner, because you're almost taking on a franchise if you're in a particular denomination, you're underneath an umbrella, right? And you have to do things a certain way, and for
Okay,
the
let me
most
put it
part,
this
and
way
market.
then. Being Church of Christ was definitely so they're non-denominational, so there's no hierarchy that gives funding or directive. You have to raise your own funds, find your own mission
Right.
field. Like, it is all very bootstrappy in that particular space, under that name.
Yeah.
And so that was maybe you're right, because I know that franchises, entrepreneurs do not make very good franchise owners
Oh no.
because franchises are like set up, or in my opinion, this is my opinion, they're set up for structure and duplication that scales. Whereas a lot of entrepreneurs have that creative, innovative, and they see something and they want to make it better, or they want to put their spin on it. And that could be frustrating in a franchise model that's really meant to be cookie cutter duplication and scalability versus mission vision oriented, like, this is how I want to change the world. I don't know. That's
Yeah, yeah.
huge.
Okay, so we got through. We didn't save the fish in Scotland, obviously, because you were late to that game.
Yep.
And Justin, I couldn't have done. I tried to sell candy bars, but I ate all my inventory, so I stunk that one up. But I did find my way. I kind of, got through school, always had odd jobs. I did go and work for others at times. I pumped gas and I worked at a grocery store. And even as an adult, I worked for others, small booking agency before I started my own. But at which point did you know? Because I remember a very distinct thought coming to my mind, or distinct thoughts coming to my mind of regarding, I think I'd rather run my own agency. I think I'd rather be the person who gets to make all the decisions. It had to do with certain clientele. My boss didn't care if a client treated me poorly or was difficult. It was like, you figure out how to make it work. It doesn't matter. You just go and then or the way to market or not to market, or how to, putting money into the business to make it grow. These are all concepts. It was like, you figure out how to make sales. That's on you. It was these sorts of thoughts that I said, I'm going to go and I'm going to give this a try. What was your first adult entrepreneurial experience?
You mean
Just
like where the switch where you're like, this is what I want to do versus it being a
yeah.
yeah.
What was your first? Yeah, what was the first job?
Man, I've worked for some pretty great people, some great businesses, but and I can be a strong employee, but I don't enjoy that format for me personally. Maybe
Hmm.
for some of the same reasons. I feel like there's methods or things that are inefficient drives me nuts. And also I don't like I always felt like there was somewhat of a glass ceiling situation,
Hmm.
because man, I will work,
Yeah.
I'll work long and hard hours and I'll grind and grind. And I felt like where I wanted to take whatever business I was working for, I knew that I wouldn't recuperate in fiscal value, the energetic, mental, and emotional value I was putting in. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because somebody else is sort of setting that value. And so my first couple jobs, I just was like, man, I got to figure something else out. Because in my youth, doing my own thing, having some free time, making some money, working super hard for many days in a row, and then having several days off and enjoying my life. And I was like, that's what I want to duplicate.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things I mean, I know we'll get into this some, and I don't want to wane on too long, but
Say it.
there's a lot of risk, and I mean, there's pros and cons to both sides, right? Because if you're working for somebody else, as long as you don't get fired, you get a steady paycheck. But if you are out on your own, yes, you love the freedom, but also that can be a slippery slope, because sometimes if things aren't going well, the freedom goes out the door because you're working 24/7, man,
That's
365 or
it.
whatever.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah. I want to mention, Jessica, how about you? What was your first adult gig as an entrepreneur?
Yeah. For me, entrepreneurship has always been synonymous with creative expression. So we need money to make the world go around. So when I said earlier, like, it doesn't always have to be about money, I mean, the reason you do it isn't necessarily start with a financial gain, right? It usually starts with a way to express yourself, a desire, kind of a vision or a mission. Justin wanted time freedom. I wanted to be with my kids. I love creative expression, things like that. So if I could get paid to do things I love, that sounded like a good gig to me, you know. Um, and I worked in the private sector for a long time. I've had a lot of good employers, but my brain always wants to wander out into the, if I could, what would happen? And that was a question that just always, I needed a way to express and to test and to try and to create in the world. So my first things were like the craft fair route. I would go and I would make bows and bow ties, and I would sell them at different craft fairs, any kind of creative thing like that. And then I moved into the sales side of it, and use that as a runway of doing affiliate marketing and direct sales to transition out of the traditional 9 to 5, which just allowed me the flexibility to be with my kids when I needed to and work. And I was okay with that, putting in the hours, because it could be at midnight, it could be at whenever. The work still has to get done. It's just you're dictating when that work gets done. And so
Hmm.
I struggle with spelling, and something that hit me one day when I was trying to learn how to spell the word entrepreneur, because I was always like transposing the letters. And then I wrote it out one day, and it's odd that entrepreneur is finished
Mm.
with you are. And I
That's
don't
it.
know an entrepreneur that's ever wondered if they were an entrepreneur. Like, if you're asking yourself that question, am I an entrepreneur? The chances are you are, because regular people don't ask themselves those questions. Like, they don't wrestle with, oh man, I wonder if I created this, could I do that? Like, that is a particular thought pattern and a particular way of thinking that is the entrepreneurial experience. So it's just, you kind of know, if you know, and
Mhm.
it's okay to do that and to reinvent yourself as many times as you need to as an entrepreneur. It might look very, very different. I've done lots of different things as an entrepreneur.
Okay, Justin, did you have a thought? Go ahead.
Yeah, well, it has to do with your business, bro, and the fact of like what the entrepreneurial thing that you do now. And I don't know if I answered the question, because you were asking what was my first adult entrepreneurial endeavor. But the main one probably was being in a band and
Yeah,
promoting a band.
yeah.
Mhm.
And but it's pretty tough for artists, man. But you have to do all this creative stuff at first. You have to, at that point, back in those days, you're printing like 3x5 cards and leaving it on windshields, and you're trying to get people out to the show so that you can make a few bucks at the door and then keep doing your music. And thank goodness, man, you brought this concept to all of us artists, which is like herding cats sometimes when you're trying to organize artists. And then you started Gig Salad, and I mean, I've benefited on multitude of levels thanks to your format. So, was that your first? That wasn't your first, right? But your big boy adult entrepreneurial thing?
No,
Okay.
no. I've been an adult for a long time, Justin. So there was a whole lifetime
You
before
don't
Gig
look like it,
Salad.
bro.
Oh, thank you, thank you. When you were just a wee little kid, I was out there working already. I ran a crap. I found my way on movie sets after doing a lot of different production jobs as a production assistant in various departments. Um, I started doing craft service, which is
Mhm.
the person who feeds the cast and crew on movie sets and TV sets. Um, because I had a
Awesome.
culinary background, and so I had a craft service business. And then, then I got a part and I was an actor. And this is what I wanted to speak to. Thank you for, you know, recognizing Gig Salad, because that's where I wanted to go. Jessica, you just got done saying you've done lots of different things. Justin, I know for you, you're a musician, but you've also done lots of different things. And that is synonymous with today. This we are, we have been in a gig economy for a really long time
Mhm.
with especially with the internet and platforms like Gig Salad. Back in the day, it was Angie's List that gave home service people, plumbers and painters, and now there's all sorts of other ones that I don't want to mention because they're kind of competitors with Gig Salad in some ways. Um, they're dipping their toes into the event space. Stay away, guys. We got this. But the gig economy and doing lots of different things, being scrappy is a form of being being an entrepreneur. For you, Justin, you had to make an initial investment. You had to buy a drum set, and then you had to practice, right? And you had to put in time. You, as you mentioned, you have to print flyers. You have to go out there and hustle and sell yourself and try to find venues that will book you. That being an artist, it has elements of being an entrepreneur. There, and until you get to that place where now you've formed a team and you have you have management, you have agents, you have all these various, um, you do it all, until you have reached a stage where you can afford to pay others to do some of that work for you. Um, so uh, i think what I wanted to know was, at which point did you feel like i i'd rather I'd rather do this. You said, Justin, the steady paycheck can be compelling.
Mhm.
Yeah.
At, for either one of you, did you get to a point where you thought, this is hard, not make me perhaps not making as much money as I'd like or need to meet my responsibilities? Um, did you ever consider going back to working for somebody else? And what is that give and take like? Tell me, either one of you.
Ladies first.
Go ahead, Jessica.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would still go take a 9 to 5er. I mean, I'm not opposed
Yeah.
to. For me, the difference between working for someone else and working for myself is the meaning and the satisfaction and fulfillment I get at the end of the day, right? The How you do that is just monetary responsibility, right? And I think you can still there will be seasons to things, seasons to life, that you're in, where you might find oh, I could use my skill set to do this job, but it doesn't have fulfillment for me. So I'm going to work this job to pay the bills, and I'm going to continue to slowly develop what I'm doing over here with my gifts and talents and feed that entrepreneurial spirit. You're in a really unique situation, Mark, where your one thing like took off and it became a thing. I'm about to sneeze.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Let it out. Let it rip.
But yeah, I mean, there was a lot of, I worked a 9 to 5-ish job for quite a long time while also doing my entrepreneurial stuff on the side until I could financially make the shift. And it doesn't mean that it's easy to do. I have multiple streams of income, and I think that's something that usually entrepreneurs do have as well, is that when one is hot, that's great. They're developing these other ones, and then that could shift based on market needs, season of life change. I mean, COVID 2020 was the great leveler for a lot of businesses, that couldn't do their thing anymore, and they had to reinvent themselves or pivot. Now we have that competitive space of social media and monetization as far as that goes, content creators, things like that. So I would never, if I found a way to bring additional income in and continue to do my thing, those are paychecks. I would never say no to that, but I could never give up on my dream. If it came with a clause that said, we'll pay you, millions of dollars a year, but you can't ever do this anymore, this purpose and passion, I could not say yes to that. I would,
Yeah.
it's
Mm.
entrepreneurs are led by meaning,
Yes. Yeah.
impact.
Justin, go
Yeah, I
ahead.
think, man, you nailed it, Jessica. You made such a good point there. It's like I was contemplating while you were talking, if I would do a 9 to 5 again, and if it aligned with my purpose, and it was a team of people that ran the business, and we could agree to my value, then yeah, I would do it. The other thing you slid in there, which was nice, is diversification. And I will never forget, it was early 2000s, and I was watching some videos with Susie Orman. And she's, for the listeners, she's, if you don't know her, she's a really famous educator on how to handle money, like how to handle your money, And she said the secret to freedom and success, financial success, was diversification. And there have been times, I've been an employee, and there was a company before the whole crash, actually, before the whole like real estate lending crash, and I was working for a company, and I got let go, and that was my mainstay income. And after that, I just figured out how to diversify my income through businesses, and that's been in health and wellness, and that's been in music, and that's really nice. It is nice to not, for me anyway, I feel some kind of security in knowing that if one thing breaks, I still have maybe one or two other things that can still sustain my lifestyle.
Yeah, because you bring up a good point. Like, people think there's a lot of risk in entrepreneurship because, you're the person who guarantees the check, right, at the end of the day. But there's no law that says tomorrow my husband couldn't get a pink slip and lose his 9 to 5 job, and have to start all over again as well. So job security no longer is the great, it's no longer the thing that you're like, well, I can't risk it, because they can let go of you anytime they want to. The new statistic is that people have what I think like 3 to 5 careers now for this next generation of workforce, where like those pensions and long-term loyalty and time served is very much going away. There's only a few industries left that actually support that. So
we're making a good argument for entrepreneurs, aren't we? The listeners are like, yeah, we get, they can tell that we're biased, but we're just kind of rapping about the pros and cons, of each side. There's, like I said, there's pros and cons of both. Sorry, Mark, go ahead.
Oh, no. Justin, you are able to be in Thailand right now because you're an entrepreneur, right? I know that there's certain jobs out there that they allow remote workers to do what they do, but in your case, um, you have the freedom and independence, and you worked really hard um, to get to a place where you chose, I'm going to sell all my worldly possessions, and I'm going to go wherever I want to go. And while there, I'm going to keep working. And talk about that from that standpoint. One of the primary characteristics of an entrepreneur is risk. And I remember when you were embarking on this journey and you knew you had X amount of cash in the bank that could float you for X amount of time if you did no other work. And I know you are a worker, and you would not have peace of mind if you weren't figuring out a way to keep the coffers full.
Yeah.
How has that been? How has your although you don't have a boss you're accountable to, or it could be argued that your bosses are your clients. How has that gone?
Man, it's been so interesting because I picked up, I don't know if it's Western programming or it's capitalist programming, but even as an entrepreneur, if I don't put in a long day of work, 8+ hours sometimes,
Yes.
I feel like I'm leaving maybe food on the table, I'm leaving cash on the table or something, right? Or I'm being lazy or underperforming. And I will get on my own, I'll criticize myself and be like, dude, what are you doing quitting 6 hours in, right? So initially it was really hard for me to, I just left not expecting these other variables that you have to take into account when you're traveling, and there's just things that take time and energy. But I was still like, we decided to do this podcast. And there was a time when I slipped up on some prep for one of our episodes. And I was like, okay, I bit off a lot more than I could chew here, maybe. So, like, being on the road, trying to enjoy these experiences and learn from these experiences, but then finding that how many hours in a day do I work versus when can I chill out, give myself the grace to chill out and like go experience it, right? And man, that's the toughest thing. And like you said, risk tolerance too. And for me, I've had a tendency to live a little bit lighter because I'd rather have a buffer than maybe a bunch of things that are spending my money when I'm not around those material possessions in exchange for freedom. You know what I mean? Like time freedom and travel freedom. So it's tough, man. I mean, we're talking about the issues of risk. We're talking about the work-life balance, which I know people 9-to-5ers battle that as well. Although I would argue that you can clock in and clock out, and it might be easier to shut it off, right? Maybe than for us. For me, I'll speak for myself. Does that answer the questions, you think, man?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're just rapping here. We're talking entrepreneurialism.
Cool.
Not turning it off and being scrappy and doing lots of things, I can relate. There was a period of time there when we launched Gig Salad. Even just there was the beta stage of Gig Salad, the early iterations of Gig Salad. There was just building Gig Salad while I had Steiner Talent. And my co-founder, he had Tetro Design. So he was running his business, and together we would come in after hours, weekends, any times we had young families, and we were very, very cognizant of not taking away time with them. Part of wanting to be an entrepreneur, it can be fickle. The business is calling you constantly and wants you to be spending time with it. But Steve and I early on said we could make more money. We could make more money faster if we gave it X amount of time, but that meant less time with family. And we had that freedom. That was the choice. We don't have someone telling us what to do except for ourselves. You don't have that choice when you're working for somebody else. but it meant sacrifice. It meant a different type of sacrifice. It meant making, within the confines of what you set up, the parameters. You say, well, I'm going to be there when my kids are up. I'm going to be with them when they're available. I'm going to be spending time with them. When the children go to sleep, maybe the partner goes to sleep. I'm back to work. If I'm going to sacrifice, I'll sacrifice sleep. I'll sacrifice a meal. But I'm going to try to do it all, and that's what entrepreneurs do. They have to do it all, especially in the beginning. Jessica, you for one, you do a lot. I marvel at how much you are able to accomplish, and
Yeah,
you
me
keep
too.
you keep piling on. So, mother, of three, wife, and several businesses that you keep afloat. Um, what is it that inspires you, and what's your goal? I'd like to know what your entrepreneurial goal is. Do you want to do all the things that you're doing, or is there one thing you want to hone in on, and that be the thing?
Well,
And can you speak to how you balance it all as well?
Yeah.
yeah, balance would be not a good word at all for that.
Okay.
So, interestingly enough, the word balance means to keep something the same, to make sure that it's
Level.
and that's just not entrepreneurship. Never stays the same. There's always going to be a give and a take, and there's always going to be this volley. But alignment is probably the word I would use to make sure that
Mhm.
everything is aligned, and that I look for alignment as an indicator that I'm moving in the right direction. And so that alignment has to it has I will not do something that doesn't feed something else, right? And it's about stacking those experiences and the leverage and leveraging those opportunities. So there's like my community bucket, and there's my faith bucket, and my church community, and my spirituality. There's my family bucket, and then it's like, what areas can I use my gifts and talents in? I believe gifts are things that are inherently characteristics of you, and the talents are the skill sets that you've developed. So there's some things that are just, I'm going to be good at this because I'm creative. That's a gift. But the talent I have is learning graphic design so that I can save myself some money to help put my message out there. You know what I mean? So there's layers of that I build into these things. But if my family isn't right, if my marriage isn't right, if me and my husband aren't on the same page, and then I'm not feel like I am engaged with my children or being able to keep those things, I cannot do any of the other stuff. Doesn't matter, right? That is
Me too.
the only reason I'm able to do that stuff is because of the investment that I make in that family unit, and making sure that I'm aligned spiritually and with my people. Because then the rest of it's just like, doesn't matter the same way. So there's been times where I've had to sacrifice money and things that I want to grow faster or expand on, because that is not the season that the family is in. And the whole reason I do this is to be able to be with the people that matter when it really matters.
Right.
So there's been times where I've had huge client lists, and I've had to scale back on the amount of times that I have opened, because the kids are going through a season of busyness, and the kids need that, or they're going through a developmental challenge and they need more of me. So I think that has been the way that I've kind of hierarchied things to make sure that alignment stays there, is that I keep doing my check-ins with my people and doing the emotional work there to make sure those things are solid, so that I feel like I have something to offer the rest of the world. I will always love coaching people, and I will always love that one-on-one deep dive into helping them be the best version of themselves that they can be, and to give them the skills and the tools to do that. I love like people and speaking and sharing with large groups of people, movements, that community growth and the impact. That's really important to me. So I love my speaking gigs that I get to do, and I love writing, and I love coaching people one-on-one. They all work together, but they serve a different they fulfill a different aspect of me. Does that make sense? We're all together,
Mhm.
but they let me use different skills and talents. So I don't know that I would ever just have one of those, but they are multiple ways that I share my message with people. I got to do career day a couple days ago at the school, and that was really cool to get to tell the kids about what I do and the different ways that I do it. And that was great for their minds to see that you just get practice being good at one thing, but you get endless possibilities of how you might display that and share that with the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Justin, are you gigging in Thailand? Have you been playing?
Yeah, it's really strange how it panned out. I just showed up to some open jams, and then I started cultivating these connections with these musicians, and man, it's been a blessing. It makes me.
Making
You kind of mentioned this too the other day, but I need to get on Gig Salad. I'm on there as a speaker with Jessica with the Perfect Day, right? But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think I think I'm going to jump on as a drummer too. I mean, I have a band back home. I'm excited to play some gigs with them. But yeah, man, that's the other cool thing about, like Jessica was just saying, about cultivating these skills that can be. I mean, I make a couple bucks while I'm in Thailand doing
Right,
something I didn't expect to be doing.
right.
Um, man, you've had, for me anyway. I don't know many entrepreneurs like your business, Gig Salad. I'm curious how long you've been doing it, because like you went into this as an entrepreneur and you created this business as an entrepreneur, but this thing also now, man, has got a heck of a foundation. Like it's a solid thing. It's a train that's moving, right? And that's like goals. You know what I mean? I think any entrepreneur wants to establish the business that has the kind of success that Gig Salad has had, man. So like, I don't know. Can you speak to anything about how it's? I mean, I know you spoke to how it started, but how do you take it from where it is to however many years it is now? Right?
Yeah.
It's a Fortune 500 company now. I mean,
Well, this will be a good place to maybe land the plane and finish us off. Uh, the thing that I have embraced and appreciated about myself recently is just how big of a risk I took.
Mm.
Um, I mean, I bet on myself a lot. And I'm a gambler by nature. I gambled. I used to play a lot of poker. Uh, it's a dopamine thing, and I realized that the reward that I wanted was when you put all the chips on yourself, you shove them into the table, you say, I'm all in. There is no plan B, there's no safety net. This could go bust. You have to realize that reality, but you just know that it's going to work. And if it doesn't, it was still worth it. Like you just keep doing, and that's where it's a pretty remarkable thing that I'm still experiencing that 20 years in, because always there's always things in business where you say, do we spend this money here because we think, this marketing, are we going to see a return on that? Actually, will we even really be able to measure it? Not sure, but we've got it, and we've always invested. We've always put back into the business from the beginning. I didn't draw from Gig Salad for 4 years after our launch. Everything we made went back into hiring people, just building infrastructure, etc. I'm definitely somebody who I'm willing to wait to be rewarded later. I love icing on cake. The cake part is just the holder of the icing. So I eat the cake first and I have that icing at the end. You agree with me? Oh yeah. Thank you, bakeries that do icing shots. The most brilliant invention ever is just give me the icing, butter rum. Oh gosh, but I'm willing to put off till the end that butter rum icing shot, and that comes from just you keep putting in, and say, "Wow, we've gotten this far with this much. You know what? Doubling down. I'm going back in. It wouldn't be satisfactory yet. More. That's what drives me as an entrepreneur, and I think that's what the entrepreneurs I know. It's a common trait. You know, what do you want to say to the audience, our listeners? For me, I keep coming back to our original idea about big ideas was us sharing all the harebrained ideas that we have before breakfast and putting them out there that day. We're just going to talk about, hey, this new invention I have, et cetera, et cetera. Um, I want to say to listeners out there, if you're on the fence about being an entrepreneur, that's okay. You can question it, but you'll know when you place the bet. And I encourage you to bet on yourself. Really, take the risk, because you will not regret later that you gave yourself a chance. You believed in yourself and you gave yourself a chance. You will regret, and you will always question, had I given it a try, it just might have succeeded. And you kind of live with those decisions. And for me, I've always said I'm going to take a chance, and I haven't been disappointed, even with the things that have quote unquote failed. I've either learned from them, they taught me something, it made me better for the next thing. But I've never failed so big that I thought I'm giving up and I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. In fact, I'm doing more things now than I have in probably 20 years. I have more plates spinning and more balls in the air, and I'm having the time of my life. And they're all individual endeavors, or they're partnerships like this. Yeah. And that's another thing I would say. It says that entrepreneurs are individuals who make choices. Well, individuals can come together and decide that they're going to do a venture together, mm-hmm. and that's what the three of us have going on here. And we've talked about this on that podcast episode that we talked, and there was times when I think each of us thought maybe we're going to give up, maybe we're not going to see this through. But here we are, recording episode 25. It's a really big deal. What do you guys want to say to the listeners as far as a close here?
Justin, you got it.
I would just say the one thing I would leave them with is if you have a dream and you think that you might be an entrepreneur, and there's risk, right? And risk tolerance. And I would say work it like a muscle. So bet on yourself in little small ways. Even if it's health and wellness based things, whether it's drinking water or exercise, or just start to learn how to keep little tiny promises to yourself and maybe little risky things or commitments you make to yourself. And that's going to build your overall risk tolerance, because you're going to have your own back. So little baby steps until you're ready to make the big one. That's what I would say.
That's great. Jessica, how about you?
Yeah, just echoing what you've both said is don't do the all or nothing thing. Don't think of it being, well, I have to quit my job to do this, because between you quitting your job and your business being fully running, there's a million steps in between that. And the question I always asked myself when I was delaying action was like, if you had the answer to what you think you need right now, what work would have been needed to do? Like most people say it's money. Say, okay, so somebody shows up with $10,000 tomorrow and says, Justin, go do your thing. You still have like so many steps before you can do your thing. And so oftentimes people put this big, hairy, scary idea as the reason they can't get started. And yet there are so many other decisions to be made between what you think you need and what you actually need to do to get going. So just take a small, consistent action over time leads to exactly what you wanted in the end of the day. But if you delay, you'll never get it done. So just start simply.
Bet on yourself. That's what I'm hearing. Well, listen, we bet on ourselves. Here we are with Big Ideas Podcast, 25 in. Thanks for listening to the Big Ideas, a podcast about people, perspective, and the ideas that shape who we're becoming. If this episode sparks something for you, stay curious. We'll see you the next time.